What was expected to be a standard witness account quickly morphed into something far more explosive. Kanye West didn't just testify. He shook the courtroom to its core. What began as allegations against Diddy turned into a firestorm of shocking claims against legendary industry figure Clive Davis, with Kanye suggesting that Whitney Houston's death wasn't a tragedy. It was a cover-up. In this exposé, we'll break down Kanye's stunning testimony, the evidence he presented, and why he believes Clive Davis is the true puppet master behind the music industry's darkest secrets. From eerie pre-Grammy party details to suppressed phone calls, this is a courtroom bombshell that left everyone, including the judge, speechless. The courtroom was overflowing. Media crews buzzed like hornets outside, scrambling to catch a glimpse of Kanye West, who arrived in a muted gray suit and sunglasses, flanked by tight security. He was here to testify in a high-profile trial against Sean Diddy Combs, a case already drenched in controversy and scandal. Expectations were high, but nothing could have prepared anyone for what unfolded. When Kanye entered the courtroom and took his seat, a heavy hush fell over the room. This wasn't just another witness. This was Kanye West, a polarizing figure known as much for his artistry as for his raw, unfiltered truths. At first, Kanye's testimony followed the expected trajectory. He spoke about his early experiences, with Diddy citing industry parties, collaborations, and what he described as deeply troubling behavior. He painted Diddy as manipulative, particularly with young artists, and hinted at secret gatherings in undisclosed locations where people reportedly lost themselves. Even at this early stage, his words were making headlines. But then came the moment that changed everything. When the prosecution asked Kanye whether he believed Diddy acted alone in these alleged operations, the entire courtroom shifted. "You want the truth?" Kanye said, removing his sunglasses and locking eyes with the jury. "Then you need to know, this ain't just about Diddy. It's bigger. Much bigger. This goes back to Whitney Houston. This goes back to Clive Davis." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even the judge leaned back, visibly stunned. Attorneys looked shaken. Kanye wasn't testifying anymore. He was detonating a bomb. He pointed across the room and declared, "Y'all keep asking about Diddy like he's the top. He ain't. He's just a puppet. The real puppet master is Clive Davis." The courtroom erupted. Diddy's legal team leapt into action, shouting objections. But Kanye was undeterred. His voice rose with intensity. He referenced the infamous 2012 Grammy weekend, the same weekend Whitney Houston was found dead in a hotel bathtub, just hours before Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party. "You mean to tell me a woman dies upstairs and you throw a party downstairs? That ain't a tribute. That's a ritual," Kanye exclaimed. Security moved in, but the judge raised her hand. "Let him finish," she said. Kanye continued, alleging that the music industry operates as a shadow organization, one where gatekeepers decide who thrives and who dies. According to him, Whitney was ready to expose something monumental. She knew too much. She was breaking out. And when you break out, they put you down, he said. Jurors were frozen, eyes wide. Some leaned forward, others visibly shaken. Kanye wasn't just making allegations. He was rewriting the narrative. He compared Whitney's fate to his own near downfall. "You ever wonder why all the legends die broke, sick, or alone?" he asked. "Because they were never in control. They were managed, directed, pushed, and when they stepped out of line, they were removed." The prosecution tried steering him back to Diddy, but Kanye waved them off. "I'll talk about Diddy, but first we gotta talk about the man who gave him the playbook." He accused Clive Davis of creating an ecosystem where manipulation and abuse were normalized. Diddy didn't invent this. He learned it from Clive, from the system Clive built. Look at the pattern. Kanye then revisited the day Whitney died, February 11th, 2012. He told the jury how she was found face down in a bathtub, the paramedics. Too late, and how the pre-Grammy party carried on, just one floor below. That wasn't grief, that was arrogance. That was power flaunted in front of everyone, Kanye said. He brought up the viral video of Whitney interrupting an interview just days before her death, whispering something to Brandy, allegedly the word drowned. You think she didn't know? That was a cry for help and nobody answered. Then came an even more disturbing claim. Whitney had reportedly called someone close to her hours before her death and left a cryptic voicemail. Kanye said the call was wiped from phone records. "You don't just erase a call unless it says something they don't want anyone to hear," he insisted. When asked who they were, Kanye said, "The ones Clive works for, the ones running this game since before most of y'all were born." As the courtroom tried to digest it all, Kanye delivered his final point in this phase. Diddy is guilty, but he didn't act alone. Someone made him that way. He rattled off names like Michael Jackson and Prince, claiming their deaths too were part of a pattern. You think Prince wanted to die alone in an elevator? You think Michael wanted to go out like that? Come on now. According to Kanye, Whitney was silenced because she refused to stay silent. She had demons, yes, but she was rising. She was making plans. She was going to talk. He even went as far as accusing Clive Davis of controlling her catalog, her reputation, and her legacy. She was worth more dead than alive, and they knew it. He cited Bobby Christina's death, Whitney's daughter, which mirrored her mother's fate in chilling detail. Same drugs, same bathtub, same silence, Kanye said, voice trembling. If that ain't a pattern, I don't know what is. A juror reportedly wiped tears from their eyes. Kanye ended this segment by saying, "Call me crazy, say I'm reaching, but ask yourself this: how many coincidences make a conspiracy?" As he stepped down, the courtroom was completely still. Diddy stared ahead blankly. His attorneys were visibly shaken, and outside, the public was already spreading Kanye's words like wildfire. As Kanye West's testimony against Diddy continued, it took an even more shocking and unexpected turn. Initially focused on abuse, control, and trafficking allegations, Kanye leaned into the microphone and said in a grave tone, "And let's be honest, Diddy ain't the one pulling all the strings. This goes deeper, way deeper. I'm talking about Clive Davis." The name landed like a bombshell. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Even Diddy, who had been nervously fidgeting, froze in place. For a moment, the room felt suspended in time. Then Kanye continued, his voice unwavering. He began describing what he called a dark pipeline in the music industry, one that Whitney Houston had tried to escape. "Whitney knew," he said. "She tried to leave. She tried to talk. And y'all know what happened next." He alleged that her death, found face down in a bathtub just hours before Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party in the same hotel, was not just tragic, but orchestrated. He called the party not a tribute, but a ritual. "You think it's a coincidence she died in that hotel and the party kept going?" he said. "That ain't grief. That's control. That's power. That's sending a message." Prosecutors exchanged shocked glances. No one had expected this, least of all from Kanye. Yet he pressed on. "That party was a mask," he continued. "The real celebration wasn't downstairs. It was upstairs. That woman was gone and they knew it. And they danced while she lay upstairs cold. Clive knew. Everyone knew. But nobody said nothing." Now even Diddy looked visibly shaken. But it wasn't the accusations against him that rattled him. It was the shift in focus. Kanye was making it clear. Clive Davis was the bigger force behind the scenes. Defense attorneys objected, attempting to redirect the testimony. But the judge allowed Kanye to continue as his testimony related to the broader culture of intimidation in the music industry, a central theme in the trial. In his closing thoughts, Kanye looked across the courtroom and asked, "You want to know why I don't end up like Michael Jackson? Like Whitney? Because I stopped playing their game." He paused. Clive Davis isn't a mentor. He's an architect, and his blueprints are made of silence and bathtubs. As courtroom officials presented documentary excerpts and eyewitness testimonies, they aimed to verify or discredit Kanye's statements. The jury watched surveillance footage of the frantic moments surrounding Whitney's death. Her assistant discovered her at 3:30 p.m. By 3:55, she was officially declared dead. Yet the pre-Grammy party continued in the very same hotel. Multiple lights. Hotel staff and security guards testified that Whitney's body remained in the room above, while celebrities celebrated downstairs. Some attendees claimed they were unaware of her death. Others said they found out but were stunned the party wasn't canceled. A longtime friend of Whitney's testified, "She would have never wanted that party to continue. That wasn't her. That was them." When asked who them referred to, she replied, "The people who made money off her. Dead or alive. Dead or alive." The courtroom was then shown footage of Whitney appearing unexpectedly during a media appearance with Brandy and Monica just 2 days before her death. She handed Brandy a note and repeated the word, "drown." An expert analyst testified that such behavior could indicate fear or a premonition. "It's as if she knew," he said. Kanye's words now seemed less like erratic claims and more like part of a grim pattern. This feeling intensified when interview footage from Chaka Khan resurfaced. She described the party as unsettling, saying it felt more like a sacrifice than a tribute. The implication was dark, that Whitney's death was not just known, but expected and in some twisted way, accepted. Clive Davis declined to testify, citing health concerns. But prosecutors highlighted the optics and the money. After Whitney's death, her album sales skyrocketed, licensing deals were renegotiated, and royalties poured in. The key benefactor, Clive Davis. Then, unexpectedly, Kanye returned to the stand. Observers described his reappearance as a calculated bomb drop. This time, he expanded his allegations, claiming Clive Davis didn't act alone. He used Diddy. Diddy was the fall guy, the front, the one they used to get. Close to people like Whitney, like Michael, Kanye said. And if you don't believe me, ask Fahim Muhammad. That name turned heads. Fahim Muhammad, former head of security for both Michael Jackson and Diddy, had already been named in a civil lawsuit by Lil Rod as someone capable of making people and problems disappear. Kanye went further. "I heard Michael's last call. You know who he was trying to warn people about? Not Dr. Murray, not Sony, Clive Davis." The room gasped. According to Kanye, Michael Jackson had grown increasingly paranoid in his final weeks. He believed he was being watched and followed. He said, "They're coming for me." And he meant Clive, not in code, not in metaphor, in name. The prosecution then played an old interview of Kanye saying, "The people who made Michael disappear are the same ones trying to silence me." Now the jury was fully engrossed. What once sounded like paranoia now seemed disturbingly consistent. To add weight to Kanye's claims, a forensic psychiatrist took the stand. She had reviewed journals and interviews from Whitney's final weeks and testified that Whitney exhibited classic signs of paranoia. Convinced she was being watched, her phone tapped, her movements tracked. Then came a chilling piece of footage, a 2012 interview where Whitney said, "They want to silence me." Asked who they were, she didn't answer. But her eyes, the expert testified, told a story no amount of fame could hide. Replaying the Brandy interview again, Kanye now claimed the note handed over read, "Don't trust Clive, I need help." The note has never resurfaced, but the repeated use of the word drown on camera now hit harder. Witness after witness testified that Whitney wanted out of contracts, out of deals, out of the machine. One insider testified she was afraid of what they'd do to her, just like they did to Michael. Then, the bombshell. A former Clive Davis employee testified that a week before Whitney's death, she overheard him on a heated phone call saying, "If she won't play ball, she's a liability. That's not my problem anymore." Though unverified, the quote hit like thunder. Diddy sat silent, arms crossed, no longer defensive, just pale. The prosecution played footage of the pre-Grammy party, red lighting, odd symbols, celebrities, in all black. It felt less like a tribute and more like a ceremony. A whistleblower testified anonymously, "That party. It wasn't like the others, it had an energy. Not of mourning, of closing." The jury was left with one haunting question. Was this really a tribute? Or was it the celebration of a silent sacrifice? As court wrapped for the week, Kanye was allowed a final statement. "They tried to silence me too," he began. "Whitney, Michael, Prince, they wanted out, and they got put down." He accused the industry of working like a cartel. Clive Davis is the puppeteer. Diddy is the enforcer. Diddy didn't throw that party because he wanted to. He threw it because he had to. That's what happens when you sign a soul deal with devils. He ended with, "You can paint me crazy. You did the same to Ye, to Michael, to Whitney, but I'm still breathing. And I'm not going to stop talking, because silence That's how they win. And I ain't letting them win. The courtroom buzzed with aftershocks. The press called it the most explosive celebrity testimony in decades. This wasn't just a trial about Diddy. It was a trial about power, silence, and sacrifice in the entertainment industry, a modern-day reckoning. And in the eye of the storm stood Kanye West, pointing directly at Clive Davis, saying, "You may have taken them, but you won't take me." As the trial resumed the following week, the energy in the courtroom was unlike anything seen before. Reporters filled every available seat. Outside, media vans camped in anticipation. All eyes were fixed on the proceedings. Everyone knew the bombshells weren't over. The prosecution introduced new exhibits, financial records, party photos, and confidential emails. One email chain between high-level music executives appeared to discuss the potential commercial impact of Whitney Houston's passing, dated just 3 days before her death. The jury took note. In one email, an executive asked, "If the album drops posthumously, what's our share on publishing?" Another replied, "We own most of it. She'll be platinum by Monday." The prosecution paused to let the implications sink in. Then came more testimonies, anonymous but compelling. One former industry PR agent said under oath, "It's not uncommon. Tragedy sells. Death rebrands an artist, turns them immortal." She nodded toward the jury and added, "Especially if they die while still under contract." The court fell silent again as the prosecution began drawing a financial map. It tracked posthumous profits from Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince, and others. Each time, Clive Davis and associated companies saw exponential financial gains. Kanye West was brought back for one final appearance, this time not as a witness, but as a living symbol of defiance. He walked in calmly, no sunglasses, no entourage. He paused at the witness stand and turned toward the gallery before addressing the judge. "I didn't come here to destroy anyone," he began. "I came here to speak truth, because silence ain't safety, it's a weapon." He raised a single sheet of paper and said, "This is what they offered me to stay quiet." The judge stopped him there, and the document was never read aloud, but the message landed. He continued, "You don't think Whitney saw it coming? You don't think Michael felt it? Or Prince? Y'all think this is all just coincidence? Then, why does every icon leave us the same way? Broke, isolated, and surrounded by secrecy?" He pointed again at the industry and said, "Because they're worth more dead than alive. And they know it." As closing arguments began, the prosecution focused not just on Diddy's actions, but on the structure of the industry itself. "This case isn't just about one man, it's about a machine," the prosecutor said. "One that creates, consumes, and when necessary, destroys. The evidence points to a disturbing culture of exploitation protected by power, wealth, and silence." The defense maintained their stance. Diddy acted independently, and Kanye's testimony, while passionate, was speculative. Yet the jury had seen the timelines. They had read the emails. They had watched the footage of a woman dead upstairs while champagne glasses clinked below. A music industry analyst closed with this: "In the entertainment business, image is everything. But look close enough, and the shadows behind the lights start to show." The jury deliberated for 2 days. During that time, social media exploded with theories, commentary, and support for Kanye's courage. When the verdict was read, it wasn't just about guilt or innocence. It was a judgment on a culture. The court found Diddy guilty of several counts, but the final note of the trial belonged unmistakably to Kanye West. He stood outside the courthouse and addressed the press. Directly, "You can call me whatever you want," he said. "Loud, crazy, reckless. But I said what had to be said, and I'll keep saying it, because truth is the only thing that don't need PR." As the crowd erupted around him, one reporter asked, "Do you fear for your safety now?" Kanye paused, looked directly into the camera, and replied, "I fear silence more than I fear death." And with that, he walked away, not just from the courthouse, but into